Hilchas Pesulei Hamukdashin Perek Shvi. Kol hapsulin la'aveda shemolku melikosim psula. Now, melika by an oif is al derech like shchita by a behema. Now, shchita by a behema, the din is that shchita is ksheira bezar, bepsulim. It doesn't have to be a kohen, doesn't have to be a kosher. He could do the shchita. However, when again melika, there's a special din that melika is only kosher with a kohen kosher. In other words, the melika has to be done with a kohen kosher. So kol hapsulin la'aveda, someone that's pasul la'aveda, shemolku, that he did the malika, is malikosim psula. The malika is psula. Now, normally, when there's an oif, there's a special din benegay on oif. There are nivlas oif hator. An oif tor, which it became an avela, didn't have shchita, so that's metame bebeis abliya. It's not metame bemago, bemasa. It's only metame if you swallow it. If you swallow a kibetza bebeis abliya, so then that becomes kibetza tanegez bebeis abliya. So that shear, that's metame bebeis abliya. Because the din is a nivlas oif tor is metame bebeis abliya. Now lechura an oif that you made malik on it. So bishleim, if it was a malika kshera, so then it became an oif. That's the din of the malika. This is the malika in the Beis Hamikdash became shchita. Masha'enken, if the malika is a malika psula, so lechura the pashtus would be that it has a din of an avela. So that's the chiddush over here. That kol hapsulin la'aveda shemol kumalikosim psula. The malika is taka pasul, but v'afal pisha eisa eif pasul. The eif is pasul, and it's not right to be makar al gabi mizbecha to do the things that you would normally do with an oif that became a carbon. But nevertheless, einei kenivlas or eif hator l'tuma. It doesn't have a din of a nivlas or eif hator l'tuma, and therefore it's not an avela. It's not metame. It's not metame beis abliya. V'chein in molak balayla. So the first case was that someone was pasul made the malika. Over here, the malika was in a zman that was pasul to make the malika. It was molak balayla. Oy sheshachat chulim b'fnim. B'chlal, if a person shechts chulim b'fnim, so the shchita is chulim b'fnim in allowed to eat. But nevertheless, it was a shchita. So therefore, again, it's all these things are causing that it shouldn't be an avela. A sheshachat chulim b'fnim, or v'kotchim b'chutz. He went ahead and shechted kotchim b'chutz, which really knows b'chutz. If a person would make malika b'chutz, so b'chutz there's no musig of malika. So since there's no musig of malika b'chutz, so therefore that's not considered psulei b'kedesh, and therefore it would have to be an avela. But if you went ahead and shechted the kotchim b'chutz, in other words, it was an oif of kotchim, which really that oif of kotchim should have had malika b'fnim, and he went ahead and he made shchita b'chutz. So all these things are ein an avela. That's not an avela. It's nachamo. So normally the din is that a malika in the Beis Hamikdash you're supposed to make malika on an oif, and that malika should be done through a kohen, which is royal aveda. If the malika in the Beis Hamikdash was done through a kohen, which is ein royal aveda or not a kohen, someone that's pasul aveda, so it's not a good malika. But on the other end, it takes away that it shouldn't be a nivlas ha'ef hator. It shouldn't have a din of a nevela, which should be metam beis abliya. Now, if the malika was done balayla, or there was shchita was done of chulin b'fnim, or shchita was done of kotchim b'chutz, so all of these things is eina kenevela. Halacha beis. Now, molak toirim shlehi giazmanam, or b'nei yenim shavar zmanam. So by a teir, it has to be already an older teir. By a benyena, it has to be a younger benyena. If Lepel, you made the malika on the teir before it was a giazmanam, or you made the malika on the benyena after it was avazmanam, or v'shiyavish gapa, or v'shenismas eina, or v'shenikta ragla. So in other words, eif b'chlal, there's no din of a balmum. Balmum is not by oifas, there's no din mum. But if it's a chaser, if it's yavish gapa, if the wing of the bird of the eif became uizgetricken, so it's as if it doesn't exist there, or it's missing an eye, or it's missing a leg, or v'shenismas eina, or v'shenikta ragla. So all these things are raised in the veil of chaldavar. Why? Because it's melchatchila not begather to be brought as kotchim. Zaklal. Kol shehoya psula b'kedesh, something that was psula b'kedesh, so then it's psula vein nevela. So that includes what the Rambam spoke about in Halacha Aleph, that it was psula b'kedesh, it was tak apostle. It wasn't a kosher melika, it was done through someone that was apostle. It was done by Laila, so that's called psula b'kedesh. So then even though it was tak apostle, but it's called psula b'kedesh and vein nevela. However, lo yhoisa psula b'kedesh, if the psul wasn't b'kedesh, is harezu nevela l'choldavar, then it has the din of nevela. So that's how the Rambam is telling Fernando, halacha aleph and halacha beis. Halacha aleph goes into the klal of psula b'kedesh, and halacha beis, that's not called psula b'kedesh. In the gather of psula b'kedesh, what's called psula b'kedesh? Rambam is a machlekes rishenim. What's called psula b'kedesh? The Rambam touches up in Pirush Mishnayos that psula b'kedesh means something that's puzzled because it's maila, or something that's puzzled because it's chsaron. So that's not called psula b'kedesh. But something that's puzzled because of its maila, for example, it had a malika, and the problem was that it was a malika through a puzzle. Or it had a malika, but the problem was there was a malika balayla, so because it's kodesh, so the malika should be bayim. That's called psuli b'kedesh. Masha'inkin, something that's a chsarn, not because of its maila, but because lehikias manom, or it's a balmum. So these things are not considered psuli b'kedesh. It needs still further bitter exactly what's called psuli b'kedesh. Psuli b'kedesh also we learned is something that if it was psuli b'kedesh, olo leyevdu. Masha'inkin, something that's not psuli b'kedesh is afilim ola is yered. Al kol panim. So the Rambam is being mechalik clearly that if it was a psul in the malika, because it was through a puzzle or through balayla, so then that's called psuli b'kedesh, and then it's not considered an avela. Masha'inkin, if it was a psul because it was chosr zman, or because it had a mum, so then that's not called psuli b'kedesh, and then it's considered harezu nevela. Lefichach, Rambam says halacha gimel, hamoilik, someone who makes malika b'nemtzas treifa, the oif was a treifa, oi shemolak b'sakin, he did malika not with the tziperin but with sakin, a shemolak chulin b'fnim, so b'chlal chulin shouldn't be b'chlal malika on chulin, or v'kotchim b'chutz, or he went ahead and took the kotchim and he made malika b'chutz, which b'chutz there's no musika malika. Malika is not shchita. It's only b'fnim malika is shchita. B'chutz is not considered malika. Shchita is harei zu nevela l'choldavar. These cases of melik v'nimtzas treif or molek b'sakin, molek chulin b'fnim, or kotchim b'chutz is a nevela l'choldavar. She'ein ha-malika materes u'metaheres el dover shu kashel mizbeach. Something which is kashel mizbeach, and also the pshat is that it would be kashel mizbeach na'efen, even all liyerdu, and even though the pale is not kashel mizbeach, we said before it's puzzle. But if you had a malika, it was through someone that's puzzle, so it's puzzle, but that's called malika, that's psule b'kedesh. So therefore, chol hapachas would be im all liyerdu. So then that malika causes that it shouldn't be an avela. That's the pashtus hadvar. Halacha dalet v'chein hanirva, a oif which was nirva, or v'hamukze, it was set aside for avodah zarah, or v'hanevad, the pale was nevad for avodah zarah, or is used as an esnan, or v'hamechir, it was used as an esnan zayna, or is used as a mechir kelev, it was a mechir kelev, or v'hatumtum v'handregenes. So even though there's no din of zachrus v'nakvus ba'ef, but it has to be either a zachar or a keva, a tumtum madreges is considered a min b'fnei atzmei, and it's not royal mizbeach. And all of these things shenimluku is harei elu nevela l'chol davar. They're considered a nevela umetam, and therefore metam begotten beisabliya. The metam begotten beisabliya. And as when a person is beleya a nivla seifter, so he becomes tamei, and also the begotten shalav also become tamei. She'ein hakdusha chol aleim. In other words, there's no din kedusha klal. It's not pshat. It was psulei bakedesh, and memele keilu there was had psadin kedusha that it be him olu leyerdu. She'ein hakdusha chol aleim. There's no psul b'kedesh. These dinim is again something that's a balmum. The Rambam said before, someone that's loyigias manam, something that was a treifa, or now we're learning about a nirva, a muktzah, nevad, and the esnan on mechir. That's not b'chlal royal mizbeach, so they don't go into the klal of psuli b'kedesh, and therefore im nimlak is harel and nevela b'chol davar. Halacha hey, kvar biarnu b'maisa korbanos, shechatu so'ef is nasis lamata. That's one difference between the chatas and the oila. Now there's another two differences also as far as the way what you do with the dam. When you get a chatas, you sprinkle the dam. In other words, you take the oif and you shake it and you sprinkle the dam onto the keren. Mashenkem in oila, there's no sprinkling of the dam. There's only the mitzvah dam. You squeeze the dam onto the kiram mizbeach. So that's one difference between the oila and the chatas of oila seif and chatas seif. And there's also a difference when you get the malika. The malika of the oila sa'if is a malika that you take off the entire reish. You do both simanim, you take off the entire reish. Mashenka ma'achatas, it's only a malika on one simon. So there's three chilukim. Nachamol. Achatas is done lamata, and there is the sprinkling of the dam, and there's also only one simon. Mashan oil is done l'mayla, and there's no sprinkling of the dam. You press the dam, and also that you do both simonim. You do the entire reish. That's the malika. Is nachamol. Kvar biyarnu b'maisa korbanos shechatus seif nasis l'mata, ve'ela seif l'mayla. Now chatus seif she'asa l'mayla. If you took the chatus and you did it l'mayla, it's psula. As long as if you did it l'mayla, it's already possible. Ben she'asa azoy k'maisa chatus, whether the azoy was k'maisa chatus, which means there was sprinkling of the dam. Ben she'asa k'maisa eila, if there wasn't sprinkling, so the chavada possible. Ben she'asa l'shem eila, whether you did it l'shem eila, ben she'asa l'shem chatus. Either way, it's possible. Either way, it's possible. The pale, once the chatas was done l'mayla, it's possible, regardless of everything else, whether it was done l'shem chatas or wasn't done l'shem chatas, or it was done like a chatas. V'chein, the other way, oila so'ev she'asa l'mata. If the oila so'ev was done l'mata, is afilu molak simon echad l'mata v'simon echad l'mayla. Even the pale by the oila so'ev, there's two simonim. So if you did one malika l'mata and one malika l'mayla, it's psula. Ben shemolke k'mlika seila, whether you made the malika k'mlika seila, which means you did both simonim. Ben she'asa k'maisa chatas, whether you did it k'maisa chatas. Ben she'asa l'shem chatas. Ben she'asa l'shem eila. Either way, in other words, as long as the psul is like we're saying, halacha he was saying there's a psul of a chatas being done l'mayla, and halacha vav we're saying there's a psul of an oila being done l'mata. And once there's a psul of an oila being done l'mata, so everything else, whether it was done like an oila, wasn't done like an oila, is not negea. The ikar is the psul of the oila being done lamata, and the psul of the chatas being done lamayla is a psul, and that's it. Halacha zayin. Now chatas oeif shemolka lamata kimlikas eif l'shem chatas. Now here the chatas eif was already done lamata in the right place, but the problem was that the malika was done kimlikas eif, and it was done l'shem chatas. Kimlikas eila, but it was done l'shem chatas. It was done kimaisi chatas. The malika wasn't done Kimlikas ha'ela. It was done taka Kimlikas chatas, which is only a malika of one simon. But here the problem was that it was l'shem oila, or it was done Kimaisa oila l'shem oila avada. If it was done Kimaisa oila, no, the malika was done Kimlikas oila, and it was also done l'shem oila, it's psula. So we're learning now a new din, a chatas that was done, lamata. It was done lamata, but it was done Kimlikas oila. It was done Kimlikas oila. That's one psul. Or it was done l'shem eila, that's another psul. So a chatas that was done either k'mlikas eila, or it was done l'shem eila, it's possible. It's some possible. Versteht sich, if it was done sai l'shem eila and sai k'mlikas eila, so it's the chavada possible. Halacha ches v'chein oila so'ef she'asa l'mayla, so l'chur is good, but it was done k'maisa chatas, which means that the malika was only of one simon. Even though it was done l'shamayla, and oila seif she'asa l'mayla k'maisa chatas l'shamayla. Everything was right. It was l'mayla, it was l'shem chatas, but the problem was it was k'maisa chatas. It was not both problems. It was k'maisa chatas l'shem chatas. Either way, it's psula. However, k'maisa oila l'shem chatas. If the only problem was that it was l'shem chatas, it was done l'mayla and it was done k'maisa oila. But the problem was only that it was l'shem chatas is ksheira. The only thing is that the bailim weren't yetzer with it, and that's the general rule that a chatas that was done, a chatas that was done shalei l'shma is possible. Mele masha'inkin other karbanas that were done shalei l'shma, they're kosher, and l'bailim shem chayv is nachamo. So a chatas has to be done lamata and oil has to be done lamayla. A chatas there's a malika for the chatas and a malika for the oila. Now, if lepeil you did the chatas l'mayla, or you did the oila lamata, there's nothing to talk about it. It's possible. If you did the malika of a chatas like an oila, if you did the malika of a chatas, an oila like a chatas, also nothing to talk about it. It's possible. If you did a chatas l'shameil, it's also nothing to talk about it. It's possible. Masha'inkin, there's a chil, but on oila, if you did the oila right, you did the oila lamayla, you did it k'maisa oila. The only thing was that it was l'shem chatas, so then the oila is kosher, el l'shal oila l'bayla l'shem chayv. Allah chates. Kol elu ha'efis that we just learned about shenifselu mipnei mikei masiyasam mipnei shini masayim shini shmam. All of these halachas that was either because mikei masiyasam that it was done l'mayla or l'mata, or shini masayim it was done, the malika was done not the way it should have been done for that behem, for that carbon. It was kemaisa and it was oila kemaisa chatos or chatos kemaisa eila. Oy shinu shmam l'moshel chatos that was done l'shem eila, so it's possible. But nevertheless, einam kinivla so eif l'tuma, even though they're possible, but they don't have a din of a nivla so'ev l'gabe b'matam b'sabliya. V'chein chatos so'ev, e'ela so'ev shenespalga, that it was done with the machshavas pigul, it was done with machshavas of shalei bizmane, a nitmo, became tummy and asis neser. So all of these cases is even though they're psulim, they're pasul l'kedesh, aber eina matama b'sabliya can nivla so'ev shekol ela. All of these go into together of psulim b'kedesh. They go into together of psulim b'kedesh. Memela, that's anything that's psulim b'kedesh doesn't have a din of a nivlas eif haTorah like we learned before. Halacha Yud. Chatos so'eif haba l'sofik. So there's a din that a chatos, even though there's a normal chatos by a behema, there's no musig of a chatos that's ba l'sofik. If a person has a suffix, whether he was mechuyev in a chatos, there's a din of an oshim toli. He brings an oshim toli. Masha'enkim menechei chatos so'eif, someone that there's a suffix, whether or not they're mechuyev in a chatos so'eif, so you could bring a chatos seif, and that chatos seif is bala sofik. You just do it with the dam, what you would normally do with the chatos seif, and the rest of it, the basar is not eaten, because since it's a sofik, so the basar is not eating. So again, chatos seif abala sofik. So the din is nasis kimitzvasa. So you do with the chatos seif what you would normally do, which means you would do it lamata, and you would do the hazoya lamata, do l'shem chatos. But, and you make the malika like lechatos, aber ve'ein necheles. This chatos seif is ein necheles, ela tisaref kechol Pesulei Hamukdashin. The case of Tavei la Sofik, what would be a case where it would be the chatos seif abola Sofik, and shoyse isha Sofik zova. She saw dam, and she doesn't know if it was b'meiziva or b'meinida. A Sofik yiledes, she had a vlad, let's say, and she doesn't know if the vlad had a din of a vlad. There was a nefil that, let's say, before this man of having a din of a vlad, or didn't have a din of a vlad. V'chol kietz b'zeh. There's no musik of a chatos behem ala sofik. She'im nestapik leichot is yavi yoshim tolik. Mishi yizbar bilchish gogi. Then there's a din of yoshim tolik. Now halacha yudalev chatos seif abala sofik. And v'noida she chayev bavadei. And then later on you found out that she was takim mechuyev in this chatos. It depends. Imachin leinim lekonoida lono. She was magdish a chatos. There was a chatos over here, and lepil, and she was about to bring it also sofik. They were going to bring it on sofik. But lepel, we found out that she's taking mechuyev vadei before the malika. Is then is tiyasa vadois, and then you do it like a chatos vadei, and v'tiyochel. However, v'imachar shenim lekonegala, after the malika, so b'shas the malika, the thought was that it's not going to be tiyochel, because it's a chatos habala sofik. And lepel, they made the malika, and then they realized, they found out that it was taka avadei. Is hareze goymer hazoyas doma, v'tamtzise v'sisoref. So she finishes the azoy of the dam, and then again the mitzvah of the dam ala mizbeach, the two processes of the dam of the chatos seif, and then v'tisaref. Why? Be'emes l'chura. Right now, since we know that she was taking mechuyev, so she l'chura be'mikra the dinner, it should be nechel. But nevertheless, kedei shliyemru chatos seif abala sofik tiochel shari b'tchila al sofik ba. So since lepel the malika was done when it was still a sofik. So therefore, and it was almanas that it's not going to be nechel. So now it's mitamol it can be nechel. It's going to look like the chatos was bala safik is nechel. So therefore the din is misadik zera that it's tisarif. Noidolo she'ene chiyav bo achash nimlaka. After it was nimlaka because of the safik, now they realized that she was mechatchilat and mechuyev. So be'emes it wasn't really bekodesh. Until now, we would have been burned als Pesulei Hamukdashin, but over here now we're realizing she really didn't have to bring it because she wasn't really mechuyev. So then it's taka harezu to cover. Then it doesn't have some afrei, it doesn't have a din of kodesh, and therefore it's harezu to cover. It was nishchat midazara, so therefore it's to cover.